sweet loves, welcome to the Heroines Path podcast, a sacred space for awakening women wishing to transcend limitations, blaze their own trail, and return to divine wholeness. I'm Cece, healing priestess, transformation mentor, and spiritual coach, and I'll be your guide as we go on this quest of reclamation, activation, and ascension. Together we'll dive into heart-centered wisdom, mystical stories, illuminating tools, and masculine-feminine dynamics across the areas of life, love, and business. See this podcast as part of a soulful new pilgrimage, a journey to meet your highest self. Remember, you're a self-leading queen, and no one knows you better than you, so receive what your soul needs and leave the rest. Heroine, it's time to forget who you've been taught to be and become all that you were born to be. Let's take one another by the hand. Together, we rise. Hello, beautiful listeners. How are you this week? I am back after a week's break. I went up to London to visit my family and see some friends and do lots of exciting things. There's also a brand new masculine energy being that's entered my life. And so I've been exploring that and having fun. And yes, working my way out of my period of sacred celibacy back into the dating world, back into the world of relationships. And I have to say, I'm not going to share too much about it now because it's early days and I'm just still enjoying it myself. But once everything starts to crystallize, I have to say, that period of sacred celibacy, that time allowing myself to let my own masculine grow and evolve and mature and allow my own inner king to step forward and come through. I don't want to speak too soon, but I honestly feel like it's been the most game-changing, the most life-changing, and the most beneficial thing I could have done for myself. Seriously. For so many reasons. So let's put a pin in that and let's circle back around to that in a few episodes' time when I feel everything's crystallized and more integrated and a little bit more solid. But yeah, I'm marking a little note in the sand to say, guys, I truly feel that has changed the game for me when it comes to love, sex, dating, relationships, because one of my presuppositions about life is that life is always mirroring back our own vibration, our own inner world. The state of our inner world is always reflected back to us by life, mostly because life responds to our own vibration. Life is a mirror for us, and also because life will always mirror what's happening inside of you. And that's actually a really useful tool to be able to grow and mature and evolve yourself, right? But most of us don't see it that way. Most of us think that life is happening to us. We don't remember that life is happening for us. And so when things go wrong or relationships aren't fulfilling, or we're not making money in our business, or we're unhappy in some way in our friendships or in our family life or at work, we think that we're hard done by. We get into victim consciousness. We start to feel that life doesn't want to play ball with us, when in actual fact, life is offering us the most divine, beautiful mirror to be able to understand where we need to go, what work we need to do, and how we can use those experiences to say, okay, if this is a mirror of me, then what does this mean that I need to do on the inside? What message is life giving me right now about the way I feel about myself, about my own inner masculine, about my own inner feminine? And so for me, I'm going to talk about today, by the way, the two types of women that I tend to work with, and go through this split, this severed nature. And there are sort of two paths. That's the way I see it. There are these two paths. But it's really important to note that as a presupposition, I'm speaking to you, assuming that you are a feminine essenced woman at your core, a feminine essenced being at your core. Now, you might be in your masculine, and we're going to talk about that, but I am assuming that at your core, you desire to get into the feminine pole. However, there are also many women, many humans out there that operate and desire to operate with a masculine essence. And I know a few women like that myself. They are masculine essenced women. They are in relationships with feminine essenced men, and it works really, really beautifully. So that's a different conversation, women who are masculine essenced at their core. But generally, the women I work with, generally the women that I call in, even if they're in their masculine, it's not out of desire. It's not because they've created it that way. It's because they're wounded, severed from their true nature and essence. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's just going to be a quick episode, just firing through the two different types, just to help bring some illumination, to help bring some insight, and to help you to start to identify where you might be on this chart, on this spectrum, if you like, so that you can start working your way back to wholeness and to completion and to the Tao being the middle way, the way between two opposites, the transcendence of duality, right? Where we're neither in our wounded masculine or in our wounded feminine, but embodying our wholeness and allowing those energies to dance and play and move as they wish. And also giving us that sovereignty back, giving us that choice as to which energy we desire to embody moment to moment, because it changes. And it absolutely does change. You don't necessarily want or desire to be in your feminine energy all of the time. In fact, that's what actually leads you to getting into a fairly wounded state. But it's up to you to decide which one you want to lead with, and most particularly in your relationships. So you may find that if you're a business owner or you're really successful at work, or just if you even just at work, it's not even necessarily like you don't have to be this high flying career person, but just at work, you may find that you need and require to bring forth a little bit more of your inner warrior, your inner king, that grounded masculine action taker who takes positive action in integrity, who does what he says he's going to do. That can be like the more logical, more analytical, more action orientated part of you, traditionally associated with your left side of your brain. And that can be super, super useful. But what I often hear, and certainly in my own experience too, is we don't then want to bring that part of ourselves over into our relationships. And that's often where we go wrong as women. We get stuck. We get stuck in different sides. So what you'll tend to see is feminine essenced women, they go down two paths, right? So we're putting a pin in the story about my experience with the masculine, because I'm just going to enjoy that myself for a little bit longer. And then when I feel ready to share, and to be honest, when I have the insights, right, it's still so new that I haven't got the insights yet to give to you. But once I do, we'll do some juicy podcast episodes on how I recoded relationships for myself, how I have been able to speak out my desires, how I've worked with the universe to co-create calling in true, healthy, integrated masculine energy. And we shall see, hopefully, soulmate love, whether it's with this person or someone else. All the signs are there. And this cannot be overstated, guys. My deepest, deepest, deepest wound has traditionally, I was going to say is, but we recode, has always been that I am unlovable and that I am not wanted, particularly by the masculine. So to be able to now be at a point where not only do I believe that love is possible for me, but I'm actually seeing the results of that in my reality, I cannot tell you how long and in depth and how much healing has gone in to being able to recode that experience for myself. So there's so much to share there. There will be lots of juice in due course. Today is not that day, but I'm giving you a little teaser because at some point we will go down that road and we will start to talk more and more and more about my experience of relationships and how I have completely recoded that for myself. But today, we are going to talk about the women that traditionally enter my spaces. So I am talking to you if you are a feminine essenced woman, if you are a woman on a self-actualization journey, if you are a woman who desires to live as the fullest expression of herself, if you are a woman who desires to call in deep soulmate love that is mind-blowing and earth-shattering, if you are a woman who wants to be the best mother that she can possibly be to your babies or to the babies that you desire to have, if you are a business owner and you desire to lean back and be more receptive and call in more abundance and create a new way of working for yourself, if you want to participate in making this world a better place. These are all of the desires that come through when I speak to potential clients and just women who I interact with in the coaching industry and in my life, my friends too. And of course, me, because I am a feminine essenced woman who not only desires to have deep soulmate love and true intimacy and a family, I also desire the freedom that comes with having my own business and getting paid to do what I love and to share my gifts with the world and to receive adequate abundance in exchange for sharing those gifts. So, a very healthy feminine, a very healthy masculine on both sides. I have both desires, and I want to say that this is your permission slip too. It's fine to have both desires. You don't have, the days of having to choose between success and love are over. If you can harness your masculine and feminine energies, guys, if you can truly mature, evolve, and balance the two, then you don't have to choose between freedom of business and money and abundance and gifts and sharing those with the world and doing your soul work and all that juiciness, and love and family and relationships and being held and being supported and being worshipped and all of the amazing juiciness that comes with that. The days of choosing are over, and masculine and feminine energetic balance is the pathway to having it all. Seriously, just let that land. The days of having to choose between success and love are over. Balancing and maturing and evolving your masculine feminine energies is the pathway, or the bridge, if you like, to being able to have it all, because you have the consciousness and you have the embodied wisdom and you have the power of choice. So when you're in your business, you can choose and flow between action, masculine, inspiration, feminine, receiving abundance and money and getting paid well, feminine, upping your prices and communicating them effectively, masculine, asking for a promotion at work, stating your desires and your needs, feminine. You know, there are so many ways you can flit between. And then when you come home and you want your partner to give you a massage, feminine. You want to support your partner with his or her mission and purpose, feminine. You want to offer freely your love by cooking a beautiful meal for your partner, feminine. So, you know, it's all about having the sovereignty of choice and being able to communicate which part of you is stepping forward moment to moment. That's literally it. That is the sole essence of my work, is re-empowering women to sovereignty of choice, wholeness, balance between your consciousness and your soul, between your masculine inner king, warrior, lover, and your feminine inner queen, huntress, lover, mystic. All of those archetypes, they are all just words, categories, frequencies for the various energies that live inside of you. And once you can bring those to light, once you can start to look at those in depth, then you can start to play. And when you can start to play, that's when you get to push your own edges, you get to embody different versions of you, and you have the sovereignty of choice again. And if you want to call in a masculine energy partner, then you have the sovereignty of choice as to when you're dating, when you're on those dates, and when you're having those conversations, you know how to be in your feminine without manipulating, without forcing, without controlling, without outsourcing your power, without calling in we're going to go into this in more detail, but without calling in someone that's an unconscious reflection of your own shadow, because you'll have done that shadow work, you'll have moved through it all. You will get what you want. Put it simply, you will get what you desire in life when you stop outsourcing and projecting, and you start owning and focusing and embodying. I'm going to say that again. You will get what you desire when you stop outsourcing and projecting and blaming. And when you start owning, focusing, and embodying, that is when you will get what you want. So let's talk about the two types of women, two types of feminine essenced women. Remember, I'm diving. There are feminine essenced women and there are masculine essenced women. And obviously then there are people who identify as different genders and they still have either a masculine core essence or a feminine core essence. That's just the way the world works. Everything has masculine and feminine core essence, okay? So I am going to dive into women who identify as having a feminine core essence, because that's the women I tend to work with. Like I say, I do have some friends who have a masculine core essence, and that is totally normal and fine. It's just rarer. It's rarer to find a woman who genuinely has a masculine core essence, and she isn't just over animating her masculine because she's in a wounded state. It's just rarer, but it is possible. Today, I'm talking to you if you are a feminine essenced woman, and then we're going to dive into, split that again into two, to talk about the two types of women who I generally work with. And I just want to say at this point that these are the types of women I generally work with one-on-one. So because I know I can't get my words out. I know and I'm able, is what I was trying to say, to go really intimate with them. And we're in such a space that allows me to really dive so deep into their own personal psyche, their own personal inner world, their own dreams, desires, wounds. That's what one-on-one space gives you. So of course, the women in my membership, generally, I could probably hazard a guess that most of them are feminine essenced, maybe a couple of masculine essenced in there. I'm pretty intuitive, so I can usually tell once I start speaking to somebody about where their essence lies. However, this is really work that comes out of one-on-one work, because like I say, it's the most intimate, it's the most expansive, it's the most in-depth space that I can share with another woman. So this is where this comes from. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my one-on-one work towards the end of this episode. So stay tuned for that. And I will also be sharing a beautiful invitation as well. So let's start with women who are in their wounded masculine. What does this mean? So if you are a woman who is in her wounded masculine, we're going to call this woman the knight, okay? Like, I want you to call to mind a Joan of Arc figure. So it's a woman, but she's in a suit of armor. Maybe she's riding a horse and she's covered from head to toe in a suit of armor and she's riding into battle, okay? This is the woman in her wounded masculine. The reason it's called wounded masculine is because she doesn't have enough feminine energy. So when one of the energies is out of balance, it makes the other one wounded. The other one is wounded. Almost imagine like a husband and wife couple. If the wife goes away for years at a time, the husband is going to suffer. He's going to feel wounded. He's going to feel heartbroken, and his heart is going to harden because his wife has gone away. And I'm just using, binary genders there because it's easy to imagine that. But of course, you can always imagine it in any way you choose. You could think about the sun and the moon if you prefer. Vice versa as well. If you have a husband and wife couple, or the sun and the moon, let's say the husband goes away for years' time, or the sun goes away for years' time, eventually the wife is going to feel wounded. She's going to feel heartbroken. She's going to feel unsupported, uncontained, because her husband isn't there, or because the moon will feel unsupported because the sun isn't there. Okay. So when a woman is in her wounded masculine, when she's in the night archetype, she doesn't have enough feminine energy. And so the masculine energy that's left remaining becomes wounded, and it takes on a toxic shadow state. Now, what this woman needs to mature is an injection of feminine energy. Okay. She needs to reinstate her own inner feminine into her heart space, into her body. Okay. So women like this tend to be operating very much from the neck up. They tend to be very disembodied. They tend to be quite separated from their emotions, from their true feelings and needs and desires. They tend to be quite brittle. They can be quite harsh. They can be quite controlling. Their inner masculine essentially has been left to run riot because the feminine has gone. The feminine's left the building years ago. Okay. So this woman is almost operating like a man, like the masculine. But the reason that she's suffering, and she will be suffering both physically and emotionally, and I'll dive into that in a sec, the reason she's suffering is because she's over animating a part of herself that is not her core essence. So she's really over animating that masculine side as a protective shell. And that's why it's really important to think about the knight as being the one that wears the suit of armor, because that suit of armor is the over animated masculine. And the reason she's got that is because she does not feel safe enough to display what's underneath. And you can imagine in battle, people wear suits of armor to avoid displaying their soft flesh, right? Which could get stabbed or hurt or shot at, or whatever it might be. So that is the same way that the psyche of the wounded masculine woman is working. She's scared of being hurt. She's scared of being stabbed in a soft, fleshy part. And so she overanimates the masculine to cover herself up. Now, this woman, like I say, is going to be suffering physically and emotionally. And what you tend to find with these types of women, and if this is you tend to find that you get physical ailments coming through, aches and pains in the body. You might get like repetitive UTIs. You might get thrush or those sort of sexual infections coming through quite regularly. You might get pains around your breasts, around your breast tissue, particularly on the left side, which is the feminine side of the body. You might get headaches. You might get migraines. You might get really tough period pain or menstrual cramps. Lots and lots of ways that your body will start to tell you that you are out of balance. The main one being fatigue and burnout. So if you have a lack of feminine energy, you're going to be struggling with fatigue and burnout. And this might take years and years to realize, because we're very good at getting into our fight or flight nervous response and then living essentially just completely off adrenaline for months or years at a time. So this is certainly something that I recognize from when I worked back in the corporate world. I was so go all the time that it would take me almost all year to realize that I then was burning out. And it would usually come around the build up to Christmas time. I would just completely and utterly burn out. I would have to go home for Christmas and basically just lie down for about 3 weeks straight, because my body was so burnt out. You may also find with a woman like this that there are problems around food, either restriction of food quite often, but sometimes overconsumption. But generally with a woman with a lack of feminine energy, you're going to find a controlling, restrictive nature coming through, and very restrictive and controlling around their body too. These women in their wounded masculine energy, are suffering from a lack of creativity and from a lack of healthy sexual energy, from a lack of liberation of self-expression. So they might be quite uptight. You might find that you are you don't let your hair down, you don't let yourself have fun, you don't enjoy sex. Perhaps sex is either non-existent or very performative for you. Perhaps you're very focused on giving, which is a masculine energy frequency, and if you're over animating your masculine, then that completely makes sense. Perhaps you're very, very focused on giving and performing, but the idea of actually laying back and receiving makes you feel cringe, makes you feel awkward. Perhaps you're very focused on making money and very much less focused on finding a suitable relationship or partner. So a lack of creativity. You might find that you're very good at analytical work, spreadsheets, corporate work, discussions around, the table at work, meetings, etc. But when it comes to creativity, it's completely blocked off. And again, this is because there is a complete lack of feminine energy inside of these women. Now, it's not to say that they don't have feminine energy, they absolutely do. And that can often be why there's a buildup of energy around the womb space and around the vagina, because the feminine energy is there. It's just being it's being so repressed. And often that repression is because of self-criticism and a fear of rejection. So we take on this masculine energy, we take on this overanimation of the masculine. This is a protective strategy. It's a strategy that we take to align ourselves with what we think the society wants, what we see as being rewarded for being successful in society. So we align ourselves with, the great father figure, the patriarchy, the society that we live in. And this woman, deep down, if you were speaking to a wounded masculine energy woman, she would most likely say that she desires freedom. She desires freedom. She wants to be free. That's why she works so hard. That's why she takes care of herself. That's why she's hyper independent. She desires freedom. Okay. Now, freedom is the North Star of the masculine. So it's almost like her desires have become a little bit distorted, and she's forgotten about the flow of love, which is the North Star of the feminine. And so she says she desires freedom, 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 but not realizing that she's trapping herself inside a prison of her own making, which is ironic considering she will say that her desire is freedom. Now, this woman self-sabotages through avoidance. So you may have heard of attachment theory. Perhaps this is something that you've come across. This woman will self-sabotage through avoidance. And what I mean by that is sort of what I touched on at the beginning of describing this woman, of describing the knight. She is avoidant of her own emotions. She's avoidant of her own feelings, her own wants, needs, and desires. She is avoidant of relationships. She's avoidant of, oftentimes, she might be avoidant of confrontation, but definitely avoidant of intimate, vulnerable conversation. Confrontation she might be okay with because confrontation is masked. But if you are asked to be vulnerable and to share how you truly feel and have an intimate conversation, that is like her idea of hell. Like that makes her squirm. That makes her feel so uncomfortable, so awkward. And this woman also is in the habit of judging other women and looking down upon other women. Feeling superior is definitely a frequency of wounded masculine energy in women. So the sister wound coming through, feeling superior towards other women, feeling like she is above other women, and feeling that she is in a position where she can judge other women. Perhaps she's judging women for being too frivolous, too emotional, too sexual, too free of expression, too pretty, even too thin, too fat, too anything. Yeah, it's like there's so much judgment. And of course, as I'm sure you can already imagine, this all stems from the overcritical nature of the wounded masculine, the toxic masculine. When the masculine gets into its shadow state and out of balance, how that manifests in women is a severe self-judgment, severe self-judgment. And so, of course, that's projected out onto other women. Now, this woman, bear in mind, she is a feminine essence being at heart and at her core, although she doesn't quite realize that yet, or she isn't associated with that yet, or she's repressed that so deeply that she doesn't even want to admit that to herself, because that's a huge thing as well. Then what happens is she tends to call in men or partners, if she's not heterosexual, if she's anything other than that, men or partners who reflect the current state of her own inner masculine. Okay, and if her own inner masculine is wounded, toxic, shadow, then the partners that she calls in are going to reflect that, and they're going to look like immature teenage boys. This is what the partners are going to look like. Wounded masculine woman calls in immature teenage boys. They could be like 35, they could be 50, doesn't matter how old. Age is nothing. When it comes, energy is everything, age is nothing. So she calls in immature teenage boyfriends or partners who and by immature teenage boys, I'm talking about an immature teenage masculine frequency. That could be in other women, that could be in anything, but that's the frequency that comes through. Lazy, immature, bad with money, unreliable, unsupportive, selfish, sexually selfish, overly dominant, controlling, manipulative, passive, not passive aggressive, just aggressive. This is the frequency of the teenage boy consciousness. That is the reflection, because that is the current state of her own feminine energy, of her own masculine energy, sorry. So that's what life mirrors back to her. So what you'll get is a knight, woman who's in a knight. She's a woman walking around in this big, heavy suit of armor, thinking that the world's against her, criticizing everybody, criticizing herself, focusing on freedom, focusing on money and success. She thinks that's what's going to make her happy, calling in these immature teenage partners who are unreliable. She then is forced to go even further into her masculine, because she can't rely on their masculine because they're flaky and unreliable and unsupportive and bad with money and all the rest. So she then is forced to go even further into her masculine, causing a self-fulfilling prophecy where she then feels trapped in a prison of her own making, and further and further away, and the gap between her and her deepest core desire, which is the flow of love in relationships, that gets further and further away, to the point where it's so painful and it's so horrible to even think about her deep desires that she doesn't even allow herself to go there. She doesn't even allow herself to admit that she would like to be loved and supported and worshipped by a deeply in integrity masculine partner. Okay. And so all of this is run by fear of rejection, fear of criticism. And the core tenet of this woman is that if she's in this state, she's refusing to take responsibility for her own experience of life and for her own self relationship. That is why she is there. Not because she's had a bad childhood, not because of society, not because of anything else. Those things might all be true. But if she's still there, if you are identifying with this woman and you are still there, it's because you are refusing to take responsibility for your own self-relationship and for your own experience of reality. And I love you so much, but this has to be said. This is an I love you, but moment. I love you, but if you are still there, if you are feeling like you relate to this idea of being disconnected from your deeper desires, of feeling you have to take care of everything by yourself, of feeling that you need to be hyper independent, of worrying that no one will ever treat you, and so you have to earn all of the money yourself, of wondering whether or not love and family and potentially children will ever even happen for you, if you are disconnected from your body and criticizing your body, if you are in restrictive habits, if you are feeling selfish, judgmental towards other women, if you are suffering from a lack of creativity, or maybe you've identified yourself as not being a creative person, which is bullshit, by the way, then you are currently the night. And I'm here to tell you that there is another way. There is another way, my love. There truly, truly is. But it starts with awareness. It starts with illuminating whereabouts we're at. All we have is right now. Okay. So it's about saying, Oh gosh, yes, that is me. That is me. That's where I've been at. I really, really resonate with that. Fuck, I feel a little bit called out. I'm not gonna lie. Because yeah, like I am the one that goes around like giving everybody else advice and like thinking I'm really independent, but actually I feel like a little girl on the inside. And actually I am kind of wishing that daddy would come and save me and rescue me. And yeah, he still isn't here. And so I feel like I have to do everything by myself. And yeah, my partners are embarrassing, they're immature, they drink too much, they aren't good with money. You know, of course it's not the type of partner I want, but it's all I feel I can get. If that's you, just know that it's safe and it's okay to really feel and see yourself for exactly where you are right now. It's okay. It's okay to acknowledge where you've been living from a wounded place. And it's also beautiful to feel like you finally have the self understanding because it moves you out of stuckness and it moves you forward into inspired and self serving action. Okay, so that's the wounded masculine woman. Now we're going to look at the wounded feminine woman. So this is the other type of woman that I tend to work with. And it really is even Stevens, right? It's like there's no one more than the other. I just tend to work with both of these types of women. And I don't really discriminate between the two because both of these types of women need my help, need this work, need to be able to understand how to return to wholeness, how to return to self love, how to take radical responsibility for their reality. Both of these types of women need space held for them. They need rites of passage. They need initiations from maiden or from knight into womanhood, into embodied and empowered sovereignty and queendom, because that's what allows you to actually actualize, Yep, that's the phrase I'm going for. Both the desire for your inner masculine, your inner king desires freedom, and your inner queen desires love. When you return to embodied and empowered wholeness, you get to self actualize into both. You get to have love and freedom. Oh, it feels so good in my body, just even saying that. I get to have both. I get to have love and freedom. I get to feel deeply loved and taken care of and supported and held by life. And I get to feel free in my expression, and I get to feel free and abundant financially. And I get to feel like my life is meaning something and that there's deeper purpose to what I'm doing and why I'm here. And I know where I'm going and I know why I'm going there. And I get to write that story and I get to be loved at the same time. And I get to love others. And I also get the freedom and I get the love and I get the freedom and I get the love and I get the freedom and I get the love and I get the freedom. Oh God, it feels so good. It feels so, so good. So, a woman in her wounded feminine, okay, she is the opposite. She does not have enough masculine energy. Her king has left the building, her warrior has left the building. Generally, these women tend to have more mother wounding than they do father wounding. And they tend to have sort of never really separated from the idea of femininity. They've never kind of actualized out of being a daughter consciousness. Okay, so whereas the wounded masculine woman is very much in daughter consciousness on the inside, really, 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 really deep within, tiny little girl inside, but pretending like she's a knight warrior on the outside with the suit of armor. The opposite is true for the wounded feminine woman. She actually has a pretty strong, badass, like huntress woman, but she's deep, 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 deep inside. And on the outside, she manifests as like a little girl, and she keeps herself in little girldom, in girl consciousness, because she thinks that's a strategy, that's a safe strategy for getting what she thinks she wants, which is love. So, you know, that's actually, it's a choice. It might not be a conscious choice, but it's definitely a choice to keep herself looking, acting, feeling young. You might find with wounded feminine women that they often have quite babyish voices. They talk in baby speak with their partners. They might talk in baby speak with their friends, with their parents. They might call their parents a lot and very much rely on them. and they are very much still in kind of daughter consciousness, and they keep themselves there. Whereas the wounded masculine woman is doing anything that she can. She's doing anything within her power to pretend that she's not a little girl. Like, she's like, no, like, I'm so strong that I'm basically going to act like a man. Like, I'm basically going to act like a man. I'm going to destroy every shred of femininity about me because I want you to see that I'm strong and I'm independent and I'm just as strong as you and I'm just as resilient as you, and as I'm worthy of as much respect and as much love and as much money and as much power as you. And it causes suffering because that creates a huge gap between who she really is and who she's pretending to be. Vice versa with the wounded feminine woman, we have I'm still pretty and I'm still babyish, and like, I want you to take care of me, and like, look how young I look how pretty I am, look how beautiful I am, look how slim I am, look how good, much of a good wife I am, look at all the good food I can cook for you, look at how well I take care of you, look, please help me with this because I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing, I need to ask you questions all the time to help you so that you can feel like a man and so I can feel taken care of. Okay, this is the gap. Okay, when actually on the inside she's fucking strong. She's strong, she's independent, she knows what she wants, she's got dreams, she's got desires, she desires freedom, she has ambition, she sacrifices all of that. So the wounded masculine woman sacrifices all of her femininity for the sake of power, success, and the wounded feminine woman sacrifices all of her own power and her own ambition for the sake of keeping this kind of toxic, low level, fake love. Okay, I'm just going to call it as it is. Like this, I'm feeling spicy today. So her feminine is wounded and her feminine is in its shadow state, which means she's kind of getting into this kind of manipulative, passive aggressive. She's over consuming. She is overly emotional. She's overly identified with her body. She's kind of always down here in her emotions. Maybe she's depressed. Maybe she's has anxiety. Maybe she is focused on her body and her weight and how she looks. Maybe she's very focused on the material things like her clothes or her items in her house, and it's all very, very material. It's all very, very much like, how can I look better? It's about what things look like, the aestheticism of things, but it's kind of got toxic. It's become an unhealthy focus and obsession. She needs her masculine energy to return, so she needs her king to walk back through the door to mature her out of this state. She will be suffering, and she will be suffering for sure, from low self-esteem, from confusion, and also from passivity. So she'll be passive, unable to take action, unable to self-actualize into the woman that she desires to become. And she will tell you that this is all because she desires love. It's all because she desires love. That's why I'm the way I am, because all I care about is being in a relationship. All I care about is finding a partner, finding a boyfriend, finding a husband, finding a partner. That's all I care about. I just want to meet them happy. I just want to keep them. I want to get them, then I want to keep them. And then I want to make sure they never go anywhere ever again. So I never, ever, 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 ever have to experience rejection ever, ever, ever again. I'm scared of that, and I'm scared of having to do it all over again. So she self-sabotages through overly attaching herself to people, places, and things. She's overly attached to her clothes. She's overly attached to her house. She's overly attached to money. She's overly attached to her partner. Even if the relationship is toxic, she's overly attached because she does not have that king energy, that masculine energy there to set the standards, to hold the boundaries, and to create the containership. And so all of the things that the distorted things that she focuses on, they become the container. And of course, the feminine wants the containership. Don't get me wrong. We all desire that containership. But if we aren't able to provide safe, healthy containership for ourselves, then we start to think that the containership is going to come from the things around us. That keeps us very low, almost stuck in a kind of quagmire or a kind of bog. It's like moving through quicksand. It's very slow. It's very low vibrational. It's very dense. But it feels kind of warm, it feels kind of safe, and so we sort of stay there. The time for that is over, my loves, because like I say, you don't have to choose. Once you do this work, you don't have to choose between freedom or love. You get to have freedom and love. You get to have freedom and you get to have love. You get to have freedom, you get to have love. Oh, I want to feel loved, but I also really want to feel free. Both of those turn me on. How do I do that? Maturing your masculine or your feminine energy. preferably both. One matures the other. So you just have to identify which of these women you are, and then start taking action towards inviting the other energy in. And that's how you start to mature yourself. So just a brief interlude to give you an example. For me, both of my energies were immature. I had an immature feminine and I had an immature masculine. Obviously, if I had a mature masculine, my feminine would have matured. If I had a mature feminine, my masculine would have matured. So I had an immature masculine and an immature feminine. I've been both of these women, which is why I can speak so candidly and so directly about the ins and outs and the nuances of what it means to be one of these women. This is not me judging women. This is me literally recounting from personal experience. Like when I say these things, it's because I'm literally talking about me when I was 17 or me when I was 23 or me when I was 27 or whatever. It's like I am literally just recounting personal experience. So, don't think this is me sat here just like, oh, I've come up with a list in my armchair and these are the things. I'm like, no, literally, I have been both these women. So this is all coming from the heart, the soul, and the mind, and my own personal embodied experiences. But yes, I was very much wounded feminine, I would say, when I was younger. Then I went into, because I called in a very sort of, or was I? Maybe I've actually always been more of a wounded masculine woman. I'm just wondering, yeah, I think I've always been more of a wounded masculine woman, I have to say. I think I've been more of a wounded masculine woman, but I have a feminine essence to core. There have definitely been times where I've displayed wounded feminine, especially when I was in toxic and abusive relationships. Then I sort of outsource all the masculine to them, even though they're really immature and toxic and abusive. And so it sort of leaves me floundering in a very wounded feminine energy. But then when I'm on my own, or traditionally when I've been on my own single, and almost as a counterbalance to that, when you're so deep in the wounded feminine states, when you're codependent, you're in abusive relationships, you're overeating and over drinking and you're abusing your body and self-harming, and when you're in a really, you're so far down the wounded feminine, before you have the conscious awareness to do this work, it's almost like you swing back the other way, thinking it's going to counterbalance, like thinking that that's the solution, is to go over into a wounded masculine. So I've really jumped about between. And it's only really been in since my spiritual awakening, that both of these energies have started to evolve. So yeah, you may find actually that you resonate with both of these women, and at that point, that's fine. It's just about feeling into which energy wants to come through first, knowing and trusting that if it's your queen that desires to come through, maybe you want to do some work around healing the sister wound. Maybe you want to do some work around reclaiming your body, your natural cycles. Maybe you want to start doing some work around your pleasure. Maybe you want to start tapping into your intuition, your spiritual gifts. Then that sounds like your queen, your inner mystic. She wants to come through, and let her, because knowing and trusting that she will call forward the king and the warrior within when the time is right. However, you may find that you want to do some work around boundaries. You may find you want to do some work around your father wounding, around your relationship with the masculine, with money, with business, at which point your warrior and king may be wanting to mature, knowing and trusting that when he does step forward, he will support your queen and your inner queen, your inner mother, your inner mystic, your inner lover. He will create the space needed to support her to come through. And oftentimes you will swing between the two, because every time you mature a bit of your masculine, it then creates the safety needed to mature a little bit more of your feminine and more faces of your feminine. And then when more faces of your feminine have been matured, then that creates the fertile ground and the inspiration to then mature even more of your own masculine. So it's always a dance between the two, but you just need to start with one, knowing and trusting that they will interact. They're yin and yang. They literally, you cannot touch one without touching the other. So just trust that. Okay, so back to the woman in wounded feminine energy. She self-sabotages through attachment. She gets very attached to people, places, and things that tend to not be very healthy or positive for her. When it comes to other women, so unlike the wounded masculine woman who judges and looks down and feels superior towards other women, she is intimidated and looks up to other women. So she feels inferior to other women. And so she will often find herself being bullied by other women, being kind of riding on other women's coattails, really maybe even being jealous of women secretly, a lot of people pleasing there. She sort of becomes like a little minion towards other women who are probably in their wounded masculine and enjoy having people who are their minions. So you'll always call in what's happening for you on the inside. So if you have like a wounded inner sister, a wounded inner feminine friend, then you will call in wounded feminine friends. It's the way of the law of attraction, guys. It's like it's universal. Whatever's happening within in your inner world is what's going to be reflected on the outer world for you. Okay. And so when it comes to her relationships with the masculine or with her partners, she calls in like father figures. So this is what we would traditionally call like daddy issues. Okay. So these women generally have boyfriends or partners or masculine energy partners who take on the role of like substitute parent or substitute father. They keep them young, they keep them inferior to a certain degree. They can be quite patronizing. They like the fact that they are reliant. They like the fact that the partner is dependent. And you get these kind of masculine energy beings who thrive and feed off the idea of having a little girl for a partner, a partner who is in girl consciousness, because lo and behold, yep, you guessed it, they are still in boy consciousness. Boy consciousness people cannot handle women consciousness. That's why it's so suppressed, because we live in a boy consciousness society. So the patriarchy is boy consciousness. That's why the feminine is suppressed. It cannot handle it. It's way too scary. It's way too powerful. It's way too chaotic. It's way too mystical. It's too intuitive. It's too creative. It's too sexual. No, 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 no. Have to suppress all of that. Keep you as nice little girls that do what you're told, the good girl, essentially. So you call in father figure type partners, and then that kind of keeps them stuck in this cycle, just like with the masculine energy woman who calls in a sort of immature, toxic teenager partner. Then that pushes her further and further into her own masculine to compensate. The same is true here. When you get a feminine essenced woman who is over animating her feminine for the sake of false intimacy, false love, false senses of security, then she calls in this father figure type of boyfriend, because her own inner masculine is like this domineering, patronizing father who tells her that she's not good enough, that she can't do anything by herself, keeps her in daughter consciousness. And so, of course, that's what she sees reflected on the outside. And then it pushes her further and further into her feminine, because guess what? Those types of partners don't like partners that speak up, that say how they actually feel, that express their genuine wants, needs, and desires, who have a masculine side to them that wants to create things and perhaps be successful. They don't like it when their partners become too bossy, too assertive for their liking. Or tell them what to do, or God forbid, correct them on anything. Their egos are too wounded, too fragile. They need nice, good little girls. So of course it pushes her further and further and further and further and further into her feminine. Yeah, push her further into her feminine. Leaving her in a very kind of toxic cycle where she becomes almost like there's this inertia, like she can't move, she can't do anything. She can't even imagine like what she would do day to day without this person or without this place or without these things. You know, she has no sense of self-identity, no self-esteem, no self-sourced self-esteem. Yeah, self-sourced self-esteem. I'm really coming in with the with the phrases that have multiple of the same words in today. So I hope you're still with me. The wounded feminine woman is run by the fear of rejection, of course, because that fear is so deep in all of us. Anyone who's in a state of wounded, severed duality is scared of rejection. But the real dampener onto her spirits is shame. So for the wounded masculine woman, it's criticism. For the wounded feminine woman, it's shame. She's worried about being shamed. Oh, that one runs so deep. She's scared of being shamed by life, by her partner, by herself. Even she's scared of being shamed by her mother for being too sexual, for not being a good girl, for not looking and behaving the way that she should. Maybe she's scared of being shamed for her spiritual gifts. She's repressed her sexual and her spiritual energy, and she's scared of being shamed. And it really, really, nothing puts out the feminine fire like shame. And again, she's refusing to take responsibility. So she is, unlike the wounded masculine woman who is staying in her shell, refusing to take responsibility. I'm in the shell. I'm not coming out the shell. I'm just going to keep on focusing on freedom and money and independence, even though I'm actually in prison, but it kind of feels free because at least I'm not being rejected and criticized. The wounded feminine woman, she's like, I'm so far out the shell that no one can reject me because like I'm right here and I'm not going anywhere, and you'll not be able to reject me or shame me because look, I'm right here and I'm like doing everything you want me to do, and I look like how you want me to look, and I sound like how you want me to sound, and I say the things you want me to say, and so you can never reject me, you can never shame me, and I'm not going to take responsibility, and I'm just going to keep on talking about love and love and love, even if it's at the cost of my well-being and my own dreams and my own true deep desires. So those are the two women, okay? The two types of women that I work with one-on-one: wounded masculine women, wounded feminine women. But guess what, guys? They all want the same fucking things. We literally all want the same fucking things. We want freedom and we want love. We all want freedom and we all want love. And we all want to have soulmate relationships, both friendships and romantic, that serve us and nourish us and keep us supported. Places where we can give freely without worry of shaming or rejection or criticism. And we also generally, a lot of the time, especially with my clients, they like to have their own businesses. They want the freedom that comes with running their own business. So they want to get paid for offering their gifts into the world. And I really relate to that because, of course, that's one of my own deep desires too. Get paid for offering their own gifts into the world. They want to attract abundance that goes beyond their wildest dreams, but without having to sacrifice themselves to get there. And so it all comes down to getting your wounded masculine, your wounded feminine, maturing them, evolving them, reuniting the king and queen inside your heart, and getting the two sides of yourself to talk to each other. Once the two sides of yourself talk to each other, then you can start interacting and having conversation and communication effectively with the opposing energy outside of yourself. So when you're in your feminine, perhaps in your relationships, then you can start calling in really healthy, integrated masculine. And when you're in your masculine, perhaps in your business, then you can start calling in really beautiful and integrated feminine energy into your life. So perhaps in terms of your clients, maybe you want to call in feminine clients who are creative, intuitive, inspiring, or perhaps you want to be in your feminine in your business and you want to call in clients who are self-responsible and who take action and who pay on time and who are in integrity. You know, so you can start playing with the dynamic of like, what do I want to call in? And so which pole do I need to embody to be in a polarized relationship with that thing? So then we can apply it to everything, like money, for example. If you want money to penetrate you and be there for you and support you like a husband or a lover, then you want to be in your feminine with money so that you're polarized. You can't be in your masculine with life and then also expect life to be in masculine with you. And that's when there's no polarity, there's no sexual charge there. And sexual charge is just life force energy, you know? So it really is quite simple, actually. This is why I love looking at life through this lens, because it's really just a way to get everything you want without suffering or without self-sacrifice. I mean, what the fuck is better than that? What could you possibly want that's better than that? It's a way to get everything you truly want. It's a way to invite both freedom and love into your life at the same time, whilst being who you are, being the fullest expression of who you desire to be, whilst awakening to all your soul's gifts, whilst being able to express them, whilst being able to flip between taking action and leaning back and experiencing pleasure, being powerful, having pleasure, having freedom, having love, having prosperity, and taking time for rest and everything in between. And when you nail this, guys, when you nail this from your head all the way down through your throat, through your heart, through your sacral, through your root, through your womb, through your yoni, through your thighs, down your knees, into your toes, all the way through your body, up to your crown, from your crown to your toes, when you embody these energies, you can truly, and I'm not even being exaggerative here, you can create anything you desire. You can create anything you desire. Then it's time to say, okay, I want to call in this soulmate relationship. I want to have a thriving business. I want to get paid for doing what I love. I want to have a body that feels healthy and well and vital and that I feel confident in and sexy. I want to be able to participate and create meaning in the world. And you can create all of those things. And then you actually can have it all. Like you actually can. Not like the myth that society says, or do everything we tell you and then you'll be able to have it all. No, you can create it all from within, from your womb space. Everything takes birth from there. Then it's supported and it's held by the inner masculine. And guess what? Because life is a mirror, and I started with this and I'm going to finish with this, because life is a mirror of you. If you have a really healthy, integrated inner king and warrior who takes care of you and looks after you and nourishes you, what do you think your partner's going to look like? If life is a mirror of you. What do you think your business is going to look like if life is a mirror of you? How do you think money is going to play with you if money is a mirror of you? Yes. Just letting it land, creating space and letting it land for you. Yeah. So everything is a mirror of you. So stop with the blaming, stop with the projecting, stop with the outsourcing, and start with the owning, with the focusing, and with the embodying of what you want, and watch it manifest on the outside. This has happened in my life multiple times. It's happened with dating partners, as I mentioned to you at the beginning. It's happened with my business. It's happened with friendships, female friendships. It's happened with money. It's happened with support from my family. It's happened with my parents. The list goes on and on and on and on. It's happened with my body, the way that I look, my weight, my confidence, my skin, everything has changed. Everything has changed. The fiber of my reality, I literally watch it change before my eyes because of the way that I be within. And what I want to see on the outside, I go there within. And then I watch it just take place and it just turns up. I'm not saying it's easy. It's fucking hard work, and it takes commitment, and it takes really being devoted, devotion and discipline. Feminine and masculine. There you go. There's another pairing. Creativity and productivity, feminine and masculine. You know, it takes so much devotion and discipline to do this work and to continue doing this work for yourself and to continue saying, I'm worth it. And I know that there is another way. But once you start to see things manifest, oh my goodness, you never go back. Trust me. So the invitation, my loves, I'm going to draw this episode to a close, but the invitation right now is I can feel that there are two women in my field who are ready to take the journey with me one-to-one. I can feel that there's one masculine energy woman, and I can feel that there is one feminine energy woman. Wounded, I'm talking about, not masculine essenced, wounded masculine energy, wounded feminine energy women. I can tell that there is one knight and one maiden who are in my field, who are listening to this podcast, who are watching the stuff I post on Instagram, and who are ready to take the journey with me one-on-one, because they desire not only love, not only freedom, but both the beautiful, whole, integrated, juicy, sexy reality of being able to say, I am worthy of both. And not only am I worthy of both, but I have the power to create and hold. And hold is the key, because it's all about our nervous system and how much of capacity we have to hold these things. I am ready to get to a place. Maybe I'm not ready right now, but I'm ready and committed to get to a place where I know I'm worthy and where I'm able to hold both love, absolute love, deep love, intimate, vulnerable, soul-shattering love, and expansive, liberated, creative freedom at the same time. And I'm ready to receive, and I'm ready to give, and I'm ready to receive, and I'm ready to give. I'm ready to receive, and I'm ready to give. So if that is you, if you've listened to this episode and you feel seen, you feel called out, but from a place of love, because this is all coming from a place of love. This is my beacon. This is me setting a line in the sand and saying, I'm speaking to you. I am calling you in, because the world needs 2 more and many more. But right now I have space for 2, and the women and the world needs 2 more women who are empowered and embodied in their sovereignty and their queendom. So if this is you, please do let me know by DMing me on Instagram at Coach by CC, or you can head straight to my website. You can go onto the How to Work With Me page and then to the one-to-one page, and you can apply that way too, or the application form is via the link in my bio. I would say just DM me. Just DM me if you feel like it's you. If you know it's you, you'll know it's you. My containers are for 4 or 6 months. And we meet every other week for long and juicy sessions. And then I provide message and voice note support in between. So there is always an open line of communication. You are always held, and magic and mystery weaves itself inside of the chrysalis, which is why it's my one-to-one containers are called the chrysalis, which is what a caterpillar goes into to turn into a butterfly. I love that symbology. I think it's absolutely perfect for what happens inside of a coaching container, because you kind of turn into mush and then you get reborn. So the chrysalis is the container, that's the masculine container. And then we allow the feminine mystery and beauty to unfold within. So DM me if that's you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope this shone some light onto perhaps some of the shadowy parts of yourself that you are still perhaps not taking full responsibility for, not taking full ownership for. Perhaps it's helped you to understand why your relationship is the way it is, why your business is the way it is, why things look a certain way in your life. And if anything, I hope it's empowered you to start taking more radical responsibility for your self-relationship and for your experience of life. I will catch you next week, my angels. And if you have anything that you would like to share with me about how this podcast has impacted you, please email me cc@coachbycc.com, or DM me, or post about it on your stories, and be sure to tag me so that I can repost and love the F-bomb upon you. And finally, share this episode with somebody that you know, somebody who needs to hear it. Spread the word. Let's start re-empowering as many women as we can, because the more empowered women we have, the more balanced our world will be, and the more quickly we can get back to harmony and peace and love. Okay, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.